Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're going on a deep dive,
All right.
and we're going to be looking at the digestive system.
Fascinating stuff.
Oh yeah, and we've got some cool source material to guide us along the way. So
Right.
think of this as like a little biology lesson,
Hmm.
but a lot more fun than just looking at diagrams in a textbook.
Absolutely.
So we're going to try and answer some questions that maybe you've always wondered about, like what happens the second you take a bite of food, or how does it actually travel through your entire digestive system?
It's quite the journey.
It really is. So Um, let's get started, shall we? Let's imagine taking that first bite. What happens?
Well, even before you swallow, your salivary glands are already hard at work.
Really?
Oh, yeah. They start producing saliva, which isn't just there to help you swallow. It actually has enzymes that start breaking down those carbs right away.
Wow. So digestion begins even before you swallow.
Exactly. It's a head start.
I like it efficient.
Yeah.
So, what happens next? We swallow the food, and then
Then this little flap of cartilage called the epiglottis comes into play.
the epiclet.
Yeah, it's kind of like a traffic director. It makes sure the food goes down the right pipe and not, down your windpipe.
Oh, so that's what stops me from choking every time I swallow.
You got it.
That's pretty important. Then it goes down the esophagus, which is basically just a tube, right?
Well, it's not just a passive tube. Think of it more like imagine squeezing toothpaste out of a tube.
Okay, I can picture that.
The muscles in your esophagus, they contract in a wave-like motion. It's called peristalsis.
Peristalsis, I've heard of that.
Yeah, it's like this coordinated effort with your muscles contracting and relaxing, and this pushes the food along with some help from your nervous system.
So it's happening all on its own, pretty much.
Pretty much, yeah. It keeps things moving smoothly. Well, most of the time.
Right. Because, we all know what happens if things get a little backed up.
Exactly.
Mm.
And that's actually a good point because understanding peristalsis helps us understand what can go wrong too. If those muscle contractions aren't working properly, that's when you might experience things like constipation.
Makes sense. So let's keep following that food, shall we? It's made its way to the stomach now.
The stomach, oh, it's a fascinating place.
It's described as kind of a muscular J-shaped sac in our sources.
Yeah, not the prettiest image,
But
but hey, it's super efficient. Think of it like a powerful mixer, you know, churning and mixing your food with all those gastric juices.
oh, so the stomach is where the real breaking down begins.
Exactly. Those gastric juices are highly acidic, so they help to break down proteins, and they also kill off any harmful bacteria that might be hitching a ride.
So it's like a defense mechanism as well.
Absolutely. And the stomach has these 3 layers of muscle, all contracting in different directions, so it really pulverizes that food.
3 layers. So it's like a 3-dimensional food processor in there.
That's a great way to put it.
So what happens to the food after the stomach has done its thing?
Well, by then, that initial bite you took, it's been transformed into this thick liquid. It's called chyme.
Time. Okay.
And it's ready for the next stage of its journey, the small intestine.
Ah, the small intestine. Now that's where things get interesting.
You can say that again.
Interesting in what way?
Well, this is where most of the nutrients from your food get absorbed into your bloodstream.
Okay, but how does that actually happen? What makes the small intestine so good at absorbing nutrients?
It all comes down to surface area.
Surface area.
Yeah, you see, our sources compare the surface area of the small intestine to a tennis court.
Wait, a tennis court? Seriously? That's huge.
It's incredible, and that's how much space it has for absorbing nutrients.
But how is that even possible? How can something that's inside of us have that much surface area?
Well, the small intestine has these amazing structures called villi and microvilli.
Villi and microvilli.
Yeah, imagine the tiny little finger-like projections that line the entire intestine.
Yeah.
They increase the surface area exponentially so you can absorb as many nutrients as possible.
Wow, so it's like every bite of food I eat is essentially getting squeezed through this massive tennis court inside of me.
Pretty much, yeah. It's amazing, isn't it? It really shows you how efficient our digestive system is.
It really does. But it's not just about the physical structure, right? There's a whole microscopic world at play here, too.
You're talking about the gut microbiome.
Exactly. I've heard a lot about that lately.
Yeah, your gut is home to trillions of bacteria, and they're not all bad. In fact, they play a crucial role in keeping you healthy.
So the bacteria in our gut are actually good for us.
Many of them are, yeah. They help you digest certain types of fiber, they produce vitamins, and they even help train your immune system.
So taking care of my gut bacteria is like taking care of my whole body.
Exactly. It's all connected, and what you eat has a direct impact on the balance of bacteria in your gut.
And that balance can affect everything from my digestion to my mood.
Absolutely, even your immune system.
Wow. I never realized how much power those little guys had.
They're pretty important, but the journey doesn't end in the small intestine, does it? There's still a lot of material left over, the stuff our bodies can't use.
Right, so what happens to that?
Well, it moves on to the large intestine.
The large intestine, the final stop.
Pretty much, and it has the important job of absorbing water and forming feces.
Oh, so that's why dehydration can lead to constipation. It's all about that water absorption in the large intestine.
You got it. The large intestine might not be as glamorous as the small intestine, but it plays a crucial role in making sure your body has the right amount of fluids.
So we followed the food all the way through from the mouth to the stomach, the small intestine, and finally the large intestine. It's been quite the journey.
It really has a complete digestive adventure.
But before we move on, there's one thing I'm curious about. What about the appendix? You know that little organ that seems kind of useless?
Ah, the appendix.
Yeah, our sources mentioned that it might actually have a purpose.
That's right. For a long time, it was considered a leftover from evolution. Something we didn't need anymore.
Like a useless evolutionary relic.
Exactly. But now there's growing evidence that the appendix might actually serve as a reservoir for beneficial gut bacteria.
So it's like a backup system for our microbiome?
That's one theory. It's still being studied, but it's pretty fascinating, right?
Yeah, it really shows how much we're still learning about our own bodies.
Absolutely. And speaking of learning, I'm curious about something. How does our digestive system compare to other animals? I mean, we're not the only ones who eat, right?
That's a great question, and I'm glad you asked, because while the basic principles of digestion are pretty similar across different species, there's also an amazing amount of diversity in how animals digest their food.
Oh, definitely. It really depends on what they eat.
Right, like herbivores, for example.
Exactly. They have to digest tough plant fibers, so their digestive systems are much more complex than ours.
Like cows, I've heard they have 4 stomachs.
Well, not exactly 4 separate stomachs, but they do have different chambers within their stomach.
Oh, so it's all one big stomach, but divided into different sections.
That's a good way to think about it. And each chamber has a specific function, like harboring a specialized bacteria that help ferment and digest the cellulose in plants.
So their digestive system is specially adapted to their plant-based diet. That makes sense. What about carnivores?
Well, carnivores like lions and tigers have it a little easier. Their food is already mostly protein, so they have shorter, simpler digestive tracts.
Makes sense.
Oh.
So where do humans fit into all of this? We're omnivores after all.
Right, and our digestive system reflects that we're incredibly adaptable, capable of processing a wide variety of foods, both plants and animals.
So we're kind of the best of both worlds.
You could say that we've evolved to handle a diverse diet.
That's pretty amazing. So we've gone from the microscopic world of villi and gut bacteria to the grand scale of comparing our digestive systems to those of other animals.
And it all comes back to the incredible complexity and efficiency of the digestive system.
Absolutely. It really makes you appreciate how much is going on inside of you every time you take a bite of food.
And it highlights the importance of understanding how it all works so we can make choices that support our digestive health.
Well said. So if digestion is such a finely tuned process, what happens when things go wrong? I mean, our sources mentioned colon cancer, for example.
That's a really good point, and it brings up the importance of prevention and early detection. Understanding how the digestive system works can help us understand what happens when things go wrong and how to address those issues.
So knowledge is power when it comes to our digestive health.
Absolutely. The more you know about how the system works, the better equipped you are to make informed decisions about your diet and your lifestyle.
Right. So it's not just about what we eat, but also how we live our lives. Stress, sleep, exercise, all of that plays a role.
Exactly. It's all interconnected, and it all affects our overall health and well-being.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground today. We've explored the anatomy of the digestive system, delved into the microscopic world of the gut microbiome, and even compared our guts to those of other animals.
It's been quite a journey through the digestive landscape.
It really has, and it's been fascinating to see how every bite of food we take sets off this chain reaction of biological processes, all designed to extract nutrients and keep us going.
And it all happens without us even having to think about it.
It truly is remarkable. But before we wrap up our biology lesson for today, I want to leave our listener with a thought-provoking question, something to ponder as they continue their exploration of the digestive system. So we talked about how amazingly efficient our digestive system is, breaking down all kinds of food, but what about the limits of that efficiency? Could we, like through evolution, one day be able to digest things we can't now, imagine eating wood and getting nutrients from it like a termite?
Now, that's a fascinating thought. It really makes you think about the boundaries of biology and evolution. Could we over many generations, develop the ability to break down cellulose like some herbivores do? It's certainly a question worth pondering.
Yeah, it's mind-blowing, isn't it? What would it take for our digestive systems to adapt like that?
Well, it would require some pretty significant changes, to our gut microbiome, the enzymes we produce, even the physical structure of our digestive tracts. It's not something that happens overnight. Of course, evolution takes time.
It's amazing to think about how our bodies might change over thousands or even millions of years.
It is, and it highlights how interconnected we are with our environment. The food we eat, the bacteria we encounter, the challenges we face, all of these things can influence the course of evolution.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in our little biology lesson today, from the moment we take a bite to the intricate workings of our gut microbiome and even the grand scale of evolution. What's the key takeaway you want to leave our listener with?
I think the biggest takeaway is just how remarkable and complex the digestive system truly is. It's a hidden world within us, constantly working to break down food, extract nutrients, and keep us going. And the more we understand about it, the better equipped we are to make choices that support our health and well-being.
Absolutely. So to our listener out there, the next time you eat, take a moment to appreciate the incredible journey that food is about to take and all the amazing processes happening inside you. It's truly a wonder of biology.
And never stop being curious about how your body works. There's always more to learn, and that knowledge can empower you to live a healthier and more fulfilling life.
That's it for our deep dive into the digestive system. Stay curious, everyone, and keep exploring the fascinating world of biology.